Welcome back. In the last part of the tutorial, we learned how to create a file, set up the artboards, and create new layers. In this part of the tutorial, we'll learn how to build a color palette, as well as find and import vector assets from open source libraries. To get started, click on Open, navigate to the exercise files, and choose the Illustrator file tagged with Part 2 Start. Now it's important to be intentional when designing graphics. So what are we designing for? We're going to be creating some scenes for this Healthy Remote Work flyer, which I created with InDesign. And as a bonus, at the end of the tutorial, I'll demonstrate how to import the assets we create directly from our Illustrator file into the InDesign document, which is provided in the exercise files. But for now, all we need are these subheadings. The scenes we create will be for the purpose of helping readers visualize and create a stronger memory of the information in each section of the flyer. So to stay on track, I'm going to name my layers according to the flyer subheadings. But first, to make sure we're looking at the same workspace, you can choose Essentials from the drop-down menu in the top right-hand corner. If your workspace still doesn't look quite like mine, you can choose Reset Essentials. Now we'll rename the layers. Click on the Layers panel in the top right-hand corner, and then double-click the name of a layer, which in this case is Layer 1. I'll name this one Healthy Workspace. Then press Enter when you're done typing. I'll name the second layer Work/Life Balance. The third layer will be Take Breaks. And the fourth layer will be Disconnect. There's no way to automatically assign layers to artboards in Illustrator, so it's up to you to set yourself up for success by doing a little prep work. Next, we're going to build a color palette. First, create a new layer for the palette by clicking on the button at the bottom of the Layers panel that looks like a plus symbol inside of a box. Change the name of the layer to Color Palette. We'll use live shapes to create the palette, so click on the rectangle tool on the toolbar, or press the M key. Then click and drag to draw a rectangle, and hold down the Shift key to constrain the proportions into a square. Let go of the mouse click before you let go of the Shift key. Next, activate the Selection tool by choosing the black arrow at the very top of the toolbar or pressing the V key. Duplicate the square by holding down the Alt key and dragging it to a second location. And just like when we drew the square, let go of the mouse click before you let go of the Alt key. Now select both squares by clicking in the empty space and dragging to draw a box around them. Alt drag to duplicate them simultaneously for a total of 4. Next, we need to bring in some colors. If you're in need of color inspiration for your designs, just do a quick Google search for color palettes. There are plenty of sites like these that provide a library of palettes and their accompanying hex codes. I'm going to choose this palette. I like that the colors are a little bit muted without sacrificing contrast. You can find an Illustrator file containing this palette in the exercise files. To bring the colors into Illustrator, just copy the hex code, which is this 6-digit code, sometimes preceded by a pound symbol. Head over to Illustrator and click to select the first square in your color palette. Then in the toolbar, double-click on the fill color and replace this 6-digit code with the hex code that you just copied. Click OK. Do this for the remaining 3 squares in your palette. By default, objects in Illustrator are created with a 1-point black stroke. If you select your entire color palette by clicking and dragging to draw a box around all the objects, you can see in the toolbar that the fill color contains a question mark, indicating that these objects all have different fill colors. However, the stroke color is black for all of them. Click on the stroke color and choose the red line to change the stroke to none. Then close the dialog box that pops up. Next, we need some assets. There are so many great design resources available that graphic design doesn't have to mean creating assets from scratch. And one of my favorite open source libraries is Undraw.co. According to their website, you can use the illustrations in any project, commercial or personal, without attribution or any costs. But it never hurts to say thank you. Thanks for making Undraw. To use Undraw Assets, just navigate to undraw.co, Click on Browse Now, then click on Search in the top right-hand corner, and search for keywords related to your designs. Look around until you find a scene that works. And when you do, you'll want to choose Download SVG to get a scalable vector version of the asset. The beauty of these assets is that they don't have to be perfect. In part 3 of the tutorial, I'll show you how to modify them. But for now, you can follow along by searching for and downloading the following 5 assets: Working from Anywhere, Having Fun, Walking Around, Mobile Messages, and Shared Workspace. I've also included these 5 assets in the exercise files if for some reason you can't access Undraw. Once you've downloaded all your assets, head back over to Illustrator and choose File, Place. Navigate to your Downloads folder and select all the assets that you just downloaded. Then click Place, and you'll notice that a small scene now accompanies your cursor, as well as a number indicating the amount of files that you're about to place. Each time you click, you'll place a file at the location of your cursor. You can also click and drag to predetermine the size of the file that you place. Now go ahead and place your remaining files. If you didn't place your files in the same order as mine, that's no problem. Just click and drag to relocate them. Notice that all of the files are placed onto the last layer selected, which in my case is the color palette. I can tell which layer this file is placed on, thanks to the little indicator at the right edge of the Layers panel. You might have also noticed that these outlines appear in the same color as my layer indicator. To keep things tidy, place each graphic onto the correct layer by first clicking to select the graphic. Then, in the Layers panel, click and drag the indicator to the correct layer. Be sure to press Ctrl+S to save your work, or Command+S if you're on a Mac. That's it for part 2. If you've made it this far, then you're already more than halfway to writing graphic design on your resume. In part 3, we'll pick up the pace a little. We're going to master the selection tool to manipulate our vector assets, and we'll use our color palette to instantly make global color changes.